Wow.
Jake Paul, I mean, as of right now, for what he's doing, it's good for what he's doing. But once he fights a real fighter, it's gonna be bad. YouTubers and keep putting them in there with MMA guys.
Yeah.
That's kind of over the hill. He's gonna continue to shine. So
Floyd Mayweather just reacted to the much talked about Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight, and his take on it is as intriguing as you'd expect. While Mayweather and Paul don't exactly have a good relationship thanks to their long-standing feud, Money Floyd, however, had some surprisingly positive things to say about the bout. Meanwhile, Tyson's fans had a bit of a scare recently when the former champ experienced some health issues while on a flight. Reports say he felt dizzy and nauseous due to an ulcer flare-up, but Iron Mike, being Iron Mike, came back to reassure everyone that he was fine and ready for the fight. The highly anticipated fight was streamed live on Netflix and packed out a sold-out crowd at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Fans had high hopes for the showdown, but let's just say the night didn't go the way most Tyson supporters had envisioned. The showdown promised chaos and delivered exactly that, though maybe not the kind of chaos anyone expected. From start to finish, it was more of a Netflix fever dream than a professional boxing match. We're talking buffering issues, miscommunications, and even a flash of Tyson's backside. And that was just the undercard. Jake Paul made his ring entrance rolling up in a green convertible alongside Big Bro Logan. Tyson, meanwhile, kept it old school, strolling down to the ring, just a legend stepping back into the ring at 58 years old.
And now they're finally walking out. It's all this theatrical stuff that's happening right now. I just want to see these guys fight. I don't care about your car. I don't care about 30 minutes of commercials. I hope Mike Tyson walks out like a G. Like a praying, he just walks out like, I'm here to box. Now, I'm not saying Mike Tyson can't win. I'm just saying, we'll see. Maybe he's gonna defy age. Bar one. Mike Tyson. Holy. Okay, that right hand though. 2 minutes is not long enough. 2 minutes is very, very quick.
For the first 2 rounds, Tyson had the crowd hyped, channeling that ferocious energy of decades back. But as the fight dragged on, reality hit. By the later rounds, Tyson's punches slowed, and the 27-year-old Jake Paul started to find his rhythm. Paul didn't exactly land any knockout punches, but his jabs and counters were enough to rack up points. After 8 2-minute rounds, 16 long minutes of mostly circling, light jabs, and a lot of awkward pacing, the judges unanimously handed Paul the win. The crowd was less than impressed, booing the final moments of what felt more like a sparring session than an actual brawl. To his credit, Jake controlled the fight, but the sight of a visibly fatigued Tyson struggling in the ring hit fans in the feels for all the wrong reasons. Still, there was a mutual respect in the end, as the two men embraced in the center of the ring. Respect aside, though, this match left everyone wondering if this was a spectacle we actually needed. The 58-year-old heavyweight legend, Mike Tyson, stepped into the ring looking like a shadow of his former self. Sure, there were flashes of the old Iron Mike, especially in the opening round when he landed a couple of sharp left hooks, but from there, it was clear that Father Time was in Jake Paul's corner. Tyson struggled to mount any real offense, managing just 18 punches compared to Paul's impressive 78. Wearing a knee brace and visibly slower than his younger opponent, Tyson found himself on the back foot after being rocked by a few solid left hands in the third round. Despite being outmatched, he showed some veteran grit and defensive skills to avoid taking major damage, but the fight was never close. Tyson later admitted he was fighting through a leg injury, which didn't help matters. Jake Paul, at 27 and in peak athletic condition, proved too much for the aging boxing icon. While no one expected Tyson to look like the fearsome fighter he was in his prime, it was still a tough pill to swallow for millions of fans who stayed up late to watch the event live. The result may have been predictable, but seeing one of the greatest heavyweights ever struggle against a social media star was a bittersweet moment for boxing lovers everywhere. It showed that even legends have their limits. Mike Tyson was once the most feared heavyweight champion on the planet, but made a shocking return to professional boxing after nearly 2 decades. Stepping into the ring at 58 years old, Tyson faced off against Jake. But as the dust settled, the question on everyone's mind was simple. Would Tyson dare to do this again? This was Tyson's first professional fight since 2005, when he famously lost to Kevin McBride in what many thought would be his final bout. script. Sure, he had an exhibition match against Roy Jones Jr. in 2020, but this was the real deal, and it showed. Tyson's legendary reputation didn't translate into results this time, leaving fans both surprised by his bravery and pained by the reality of old age catching up with their hero.
You have no idea how much I'm praying that you are right. I do not want to see Mike Tyson get knocked out. I really, really don't. I'm proud at how his life has evolved and, you know, and all of this stuff after all that he's been through. I don't wish this brother to get knocked out. But, yo, fellas, he's 31 years older than Jake Paul. 31. Do y'all understand? I'm going to put this in perspective. I was just telling somebody here in studio in LA this. Do y'all know more than 20 years ago, Mike Tyson got dropped in a fight from sheer fatigue? Wasn't even hurt, but still extended his hand to reach out for the referee to help him up. He actually had a second there where he was looking for the referee to help him up because he was so tired, you understand, that he could barely get up. That was 20 years ago. So if that was you 20 years ago, what am I supposed to believe about you now? Now, in the case of Jake Paul, I'm conflicted.
Hero. Meanwhile, Jake Paul walked away with his 11th professional win, even though most of which have been, let's just say, not noteworthy. From defeating MMA stars to outclassing lesser-known boxers, Paul's journey has been unconventional but undeniably effective. And after beating Mike, he's openly setting his sights on bigger fish, even hinting at a potential fight with Canelo Alvarez.
I tried to give the fight the best fight I possibly could, but when someone's just surviving in the ring, basically, it's hard to make it exciting. So I couldn't really get him to engage me or slip shots and, you know, do something super cool or whatever. But I don't care about what people have to say. They're always going to have something to say, and that it is what it is. There was a point where, you know, I was just like, okay, he's not really engaging back. And so I don't know if he's tired or whatever. And I could just tell, you know, his age was showing a little bit. And I just have so much respect for him. And that like violence war thing between us, like after he slapped me, I wanted to, you know, be aggressive and take him down and knock him out and all that stuff. But that kind of went away as the rounds went on.
The fight, held at the home of the Dallas Cowboys, was a match of epic proportions, drawing 72,300 fans and a star-studded audience. It wasn't just about the fight. It was about two eras of boxing colliding in a way that felt surreal. For Tyson, this might be the end of his professional boxing story, but for Paul, it's just another chapter in his quest to conquer the sport in his own way. Jake Paul can now add that he beat Mike Tyson to his growing and controversial resume. The YouTuber-turned-boxer took on the 58-year-old Hall of Famer in a fight that brought two completely different eras of boxing into the spotlight. Tyson, competing in his first professional fight since 2005, found himself up against Paul, a man with nothing to lose and everything to prove. For Paul, this was another step in a redemption arc after his February loss to Tommy Fury, the first actual boxer he'd faced. Since then, Paul has been on a 5-fight win streak, but this showdown with Tyson was on an entirely different scale. Tyson isn't just any opponent. He's a former undisputed heavyweight champion with 44 knockouts under his belt. However, the 27-year-old Paul looked sharper, fresher, and way more mobile than Tyson, who was clearly feeling the effects of age. Wearing a leg brace and struggling to find his rhythm, Tyson's movements were stiff, and his once-feared explosiveness was nowhere to be found. To make matters worse, Tyson had recently dealt with an ulcer flare-up, which delayed the original fight date, though he assured fans it didn't impact his performance. Still, it didn't help. The stats told the story. Paul landed 78 punches out of 278 thrown, connecting at a solid 28%, while Tyson managed just 18 out of 97, landing at 18%. While Paul wasn't able to knock Tyson out, he did stun the legend a few times early on and maintained control throughout the fight. By the third round, Tyson's gas tank was running on fumes, and it became clear that this wasn't the Iron Mike of old.
Man, I just felt so mentally like focused and locked in. There was like no nerves, no adrenaline, even though my body wasn't as good in shape because of my ankle sprain. I just mentally, everything's slowing down in the ring. I'm not getting as nervous and stuff like that. So that was
Did you
really
notice there's 75,000 people watching? Did that get you at all? How many people thought
Did I notice it? No, honestly, it's harder fighting in an arena because it's louder. in the stadium, it's not that loud. So
It wasn't the fairy tale return fans might have hoped for. His record now stands at 57, with 44 knockouts, which proves his greatness in his prime. As for Paul, this victory further cements his position as one of the most talked about figures in boxing, whether you love him or hate him. Jake walked away with the win on points 80-72, 79-73, 79-73, while fans were left debating whether anyone really came out on top. At 27, Paul took heavy criticism for stepping into the ring with Tyson, a 58-year-old boxing icon who hadn't fought professionally in nearly 2 decades. And while Paul may have technically won by landing 78 punches compared to Tyson's 18, the victory didn't exactly silence his critics. Social media exploded with backlash, with fans questioning the legitimacy of the fight and whether Paul's win even counted as an accomplishment. For many, this was a no-win situation for Paul. Lose, and he'd become the guy who couldn't beat a retired, nearly 60-year-old Tyson. Win, and he's the guy who beat a retired, nearly 60-year-old Tyson. Sure, Paul put up a decent performance, but at what cost for the boxing fans?
But, unfortunately, everybody wasn't surprised. Mike Tyson ended up losing this fight to Jake Paul. My heart wanted Mike Tyson to win, but my mind was like, Jake Paul's gonna win. He's 30 years younger than him. He is getting better as a boxer. I think now I view all these fights that he just recently had as an amateur. He has a very expensive amateur career where he's being paid. Reason why I say it is like when you look at boxing, an amateur at least has 25 to 30 fights under their belts before they go pro, and they either go to the Olympics. Where Jake Paul's taking a different route where he's picking and choosing the athletes that he's fighting, and some of these guys are tough. They're all tough. I'm not saying they're bad, but they're all amateurs as well because they don't have as many fights. Now, the 2 gentlemen that he did fight recently, the guy he knocked out, the guy who was delivering pizza, and the gentleman Rhino who left boxing to go work at an oil rig. You got to take into consideration these guys left boxing and they're coming back to get a check. But granted, they were both a lot older than Jake Paul. I believe the pizza boy was 35, and I can't remember how much the oil gentleman is as well. So that's why I'm considering it as an amateur. What would I like to see next for Jake Paul? I would like to see Jake Paul fight somebody who is relatively his age. Fight someone who's 25 to 29 years old, who's on who's maybe 15-1. 12-2, 13-4 in boxing, his age, and has a nice amateur career, maybe 30 fights, 40 fights as amateur, but the culture in boxing is totally different, right? Before I went pro as a professional mixed martial artist, I had at least 20 fights, 5, maybe 4 jiu-jitsu tournaments. I had a boxing match, Muay Thai match, shoot boxing match, kickboxing match, and I had like at least 15 mixed martial arts fights before I went pro. So it's a little bit different. So that's why I view this as his amateur career right now, and he's making a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money.
The fight itself lacked the drama fans had hoped for. The rounds were shortened to 2 minutes, totaling just 16 minutes of action. Neither man landed a knockout, and while Tyson showed flashes of grit and determination, it was clear this wasn't the Iron Mike who once struck fear into the heavyweight division. Wearing a knee brace and visibly slower, Tyson still managed to go the distance against a much younger and fitter Paul, proving that his legendary toughness hasn't faded. Fans on platforms like X, formerly Twitter, had a lot to say, with some calling the fight a waste of time and accusing it of being staged. Others pointed out that a prime Mike Tyson would have annihilated Paul in seconds. But even at 58, Tyson's ability to last 8 rounds against someone half his age showed his undeniable heart and warrior spirit. But let's be real, 58 is 58. Mike Tyson may still have the hands, but the legs just weren't there. Old is old. Thankfully, Jake Paul didn't send the legend to the canvas because that would have been a tough pill to swallow for everyone. Now, though, the circus is over, and it's time for Jake to prove himself. Many have said that it is enough with retired legends, basketball players, or ex-MMA stars to put him in the ring with a legit top 10 contender, maybe even a real current champion. Let's see if the problem child can handle an actual boxing challenge.
You understand what I'm saying? And do your thing.
Yeah.
That assists potentially in taking the hands of the sport out, taking the sport out of the hands of the promoters. So in that regard, I root for Jake Paul. I truly, truly do. But in the end, he's 31 years younger. I'm sick and tired of him fighting either non-boxers, strikers, basketball players, or boxers with no punch or whatever. I want to see him go up in there against somebody relatively his age that actually box for a living. If he's going to call himself a boxer, this is the best, the closest that he's gotten to it. And I have no doubt if Mike Tyson catches anybody, he could put him out. I just don't know if he will.
Interestingly, Jake Paul admitted he was scared during the fight. Scared? Against a 58-year-old Tyson? That might not sit well with his critics, but hey, standing toe-to-toe with an icon, even a retired one, isn't for the faint of heart. Meanwhile, fans at home had their own battle, trying to survive Netflix's live streaming fiasco. Much like the fight itself, the stream didn't live up to the hype. Buffering issues plagued the broadcast from the start of the main card, leaving fans frustrated and ready to throw in the towel. And with WWE's Monday Night Raw set to air weekly on Netflix soon, wrestling fans are already sweating over what this means for their viewing experience. Between the boos in the arena and the groans online, it's safe to say this event wasn't winning any awards. But hey, it was an entertaining disaster, and in the world of celebrity boxing, isn't that the point? Love him or hate him, Tyson remains a legend with a legacy that no single fight can tarnish. As for Paul, the question remains, did he really win or just survive another round in the ring of public opinion? Even though Jake Paul bowed in a show of respect to Mike Tyson as the fight wrapped up, the controversy surrounding their 8-round bout refuses to fade. At 58 years old, Tyson found himself outclassed by a much younger and sharper Paul. Yet, in true Tyson fashion, he's not ready to hang up the gloves just yet. Despite landing only 18 punches during the entire fight, Tyson insists he's far from done. The boxing legend, who has always defied expectations, hinted at a potential fight with Logan Paul, Jake's equally polarizing brother. It seems Tyson isn't ready to fade quietly into retirement, even after this underwhelming performance.
The only result that I think people truly would have been happy with is a Mike Tyson knockout of Jake Paul. I think that's the only one that would have sufficed, and that wasn't happening. There was never really any doubt. He landed a couple punches early on, but there was never really a question as to whether or not that would happen. I think Jake carried him. I think Jake didn't want to knock him out. I'm not sure if he could have, but he definitely took his foot off the gas last couple rounds for sure. And ultimately, I'm okay with that. I predicted a Jake Paul decision. I thought it would be a little bit more competitive to get to the decision, but ultimately I'm okay with that. I am surprised he didn't call out Canelo afterwards or someone else. I'm not suggesting that should be the fight or that he can beat him or anything like that, but it seemed to be like that was the thing on his mind. I am surprised that Mike said he'll fight again and that maybe he'll fight Logan, although I think he was kidding, to be honest.
What isn't up for debate? The payday. Paul is expected to pocket a whopping $40 million, while Tyson will walk away with a still impressive $20 million. Both fighters cashed in big. While the fight itself has been stirring up a mix of excitement and skepticism, Floyd Mayweather sees it from a different angle, one that's all about business smarts. Floyd, who is one of the richest in the sport, isn't one to sugarcoat things, and when asked about the fight, he gave credit where it's due. In his words, Jake Paul's moves in the boxing world are kinda cool. Mayweather acknowledged that Paul has a talent for making money, likening it to a hustle that's hard to knock. He also pointed out that as long as Jake continues getting matched strategically, and let's be honest, the matchmaking here is doing some heavy lifting. It's a win for him financially.
He's selling it. He's selling it, and he's making good money, and he's entertaining. I like it.
Is he, and Floyd, there are many people who believe you're the most talented fighter ever, period. So whatever you say to this question, I think is important. Are you impressed? Does he have boxing ability, or is he just an entertainer who has a lot of fans and can promote a fight and has fought lesser opponents? Or is he actually talented?
As long as he continues to fight MMA guys and YouTubers, he's gonna continue to look good and shine. But once he fights a real fighter that can really fight, it's not gonna be that good.
Does he have the ability, with what you've seen, to continue to mold himself into somebody who can actually? He told me before his goal is to fight Canelo, so that's where his mindset's at.
He get fucked up by Canelo. Oh, I'm sorry, it's TMZ.
You can curse.
I apologize, but
no apologize about.
There's no way he get demolished. But for what he's doing, as long as they keep getting YouTubers and keep putting them in there with MMA guys,
yeah,
that's kind of over the hill, he's gonna continue to shine. So I'm proud of him. I'm not really upset. Even like It was so crazy. I remember just a while back, his brother was like, "Oh, I didn't get paid. I didn't get paid." It was just like I said before. He just want to keep his name out there. You know, as long as he attached his name to mine, he gonna keep my name out there. Remember what he said? He said, "Oh, Mayweather ain't gonna. He didn't pay me. He didn't pay me. Where's the lawsuit? If you didn't get paid, where's the lawsuit?" So it's a bunch of. But like I said before, they know what they're doing. Both brothers. Logan as well as Jake, they know what they're doing. So they're doing what they got to do. I can't knock them.
And while the fight itself may not go down as one of the greats, Tyson's refusal to retire adds an intriguing wrinkle to his already legendary career. Whether it's Logan Paul or someone else, Iron Mike seems determined to give fans at least one more show. The question is, will they tune in? Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and smash the notification bell. Thanks for watching.